everyone, and welcome back to Carlito's Clix. I'm your host, Carlito, bringing you part 2, second episode, of our Clix for beginners. Last time we talked about how I kind of take a look and see if a model is good. We're going to kind of bring it into a bit more basics, something a little bit more straightforward, and talk about actions. I find that this is one of the most confusing things for new players to pick up. Is how actions work, how powers interact with certain actions. So get right into it. First thing I want to talk about is the different types of actions. We have move actions, close combat actions, range combat actions, power actions, and free actions. All the actions, besides free actions, give a character an action token. Meaning that they've activated for the turn, and that's all they're going to do. However, free actions can be done at any point during your turn and don't give you a power action. However, each free action can only be used once, just to kind of clarify that. I taught new people who have thought that it can be used 3 times a turn. Not quite how that works. So let's get into move actions. When a character is given a move action, he is allowed to move up to his speed value. Move actions are very straightforward, very, very simple. There's a couple powers that work with move actions, like phasing, teleport, and leap climb, which basically enhance their ability to move, but at the end of the day, you're still just moving. All the other actions are kind of where the good stuff happens. Close combat actions is where a character who is adjacent to an opposing character can make an attack against said character. A lot of powers require close combat actions, such as flurry, blades, claws, fangs, exploit weaknesses, so on and so forth. So that's very simply put the action that is required to beat up your opponent. Range combat actions is next. That is where a character who is not adjacent to any opposing characters can make a ranged combat attack against a character that he draws line of fire to and within his range. A lot of powers such as, you can always just shoot, or you can use penetrating psychic blast, pulse wave, anything like that is giving, a power is activated via giving a character a ranged combat action. So probably one of the more confusing actions, and this is kind of where the bulk of the video comes from, is power actions. Power actions are used to activate special powers. They're usually the most powerful actions a character can be given, such as charge or running shot. We're going to talk about it in a video later on, getting into specifics, but charge requires a power action that allows you to move and attack. And be given a close combat action. So power actions are often powers that allow you to do multiple things in one action, such as move and attack, attack and move. With hypersonic speed, you can move, attack, move, and things like that. And some of the odd powers, the less common powers, will also use a power action, such as force blast, or smoke cloud, some powers like that, right? It requires a power action, takes up their whole turn to lay down some smoke, or to push your opponent away. And then the very last action is free actions. Again, these are the only actions that don't give a character an action token. And the way that they work is at any point during your turn, you can use a free action. Free actions are powers like outwit, or perplex. Simply put, at any point during your turn, you give a character a free action who can use one of these powers, and a character within 10 squares and within line of fire can be affected by this free action. The really cool thing about free actions is they can be used before the turn, like at the very start of the turn, before start of the turn effects take over, such as poison. So a neat power, or little hint, is you can outwit someone's toughness, and then anyone who's beside them with poison can hit them for 1 damage with poison. Things like that can happen. Before, Magneto, say, Professor X, who has Perplex, can perplex a guy, then, like, say, Wolverine can then take his action, and then Professor X can be given his action. I just want to kind of clarify how that works, right? He doesn't need to be given a free action, then take his turn. Free actions are the most versatile, and if used properly, really the most powerful. And you can really use them to your advantage. On a side note, there are a few powers out there that I would describe as what's called a reaction power that trigger when the requirements are fulfilled. The biggest one would be probability control. Probability control happens when you choose it to happen after the requirements are fulfilled. I.e. being you make a roll on one of your turns, or your opponent makes a roll on one of their turns. Now, because free actions are actually, it's in the rules that you can only use a free action once a turn or a round, probability control in its description actually says once a round. So it's actually, when you read probability control, it's very laid out and concise, but it does confuse a lot of people. They're never really sure how it works because it doesn't give a power action, free action, move action, anything like that. So there's a few powers that just happen. Probability control's a big one. Things also like shape change or super senses just happen, right? You don't give them an action. There's powers that activate when the requirements are fulfilled, i.e. you make a roll, your opponent makes a roll, you get hit by an attack, you're targeted with an attack, anything like that. One last tip, kind of going to wrap up the video here, it's a nice short and sweet video, is if you don't have one as a new player, or even as an experienced player, get your pack, Powers and Abilities card. It's going to tell you which actions activate using which powers activate using which actions, such as Exploit Weakness, Penetrating Psychic Blast, Phasing Teleport, anything like that. So it's actually going to give you a good insight on how they interact. When we're doing our Sunday afternoon events that I run for the local play group, I usually pull this thing out once or twice tournament just to kind of, keep, answer any questions and have a good idea of what I'm talking about. Because sometimes these things elude me, even as an experienced player. I've been playing for a number of years now. So, get a pack. I take it with me everywhere. It's definitely come in handy. So, thanks for joining us for this segment of our Clix for Beginners on Carlito's Clix. I'm your host, Carlito, and you have yourself a great day. That's it. You should stop it now.